Time for us to welcome the winner of the entire Fantasy Premier League competition. Is it Michael Teddy Bear? Is that your official name, Michael? Good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, how's things? No, the Teddy Bear's lost, just Michael Coone.
And come here, where did the Teddy Bear's name come from?
It was just a very simple name. It's hard to come up with a name off the spot, but I got a bit of advice that there's a bit of gamesmanship when you get up near high in the game, that people might report an offensive team name. So I said I'd go for the most passive team name I could think of. I didn't think it would get this exposure, but it has got it.
All right.
Because that happened last year, didn't it? The winner got disqualified for an offensive team name.
What?
Exactly. So I just thought I'd avoid that completely. So I went for the most passive name I could think of, but not thinking that it would get headlines.
Okay, that's interesting. You obviously had ambitions of being the winner outright.
Yeah, no, well, it was more, you can change your team name as you go along. So when I was getting close to top of Ireland, I changed it to that passive name, just to avoid it.
What I can't get over this season, Michael, I'm not sure does this generally happen, but like you've been in the top 25 for like 20 weeks. Like the peaks and troughs of a Premier League season are represented in fantasy generally. I would assume that there is a sense of a bolter about the winner in most years, or at least they don't spend 25 or 20 consecutive weeks in the top 25. So this was quite an early burst from you.
Yeah, I did notice. You would notice being in the top 10, you kind of get familiar with the teams around you, and near the end, you could see quite a few that I hadn't seen before. So so they obviously came from behind. It's a lot of strategy. So like you use these kind of chips, these kind of cards that you can play. It gets you a lot of points in a game week, and I used a lot of mine a bit earlier. Which got me in the So I kind of come up with the should I go into a lead early and try and hold on to it, or try and come from behind? But thankfully it worked the way I did it.
Did your strategy change this season? What was the different element for you? Because again, people will be going through your previous season history and seeing it's incredible how much. I think 75,000 in the world was your best finish 10 years ago, and then this year all of a sudden this burst to the top. So what was different?
The start is definitely the most important part of it. So the teams I picked, a lot of the time in the past you would have picked a squad, and a lot of the cheap players that you picked that you kind of guessed that hopefully they'll start and keep their place in the team. A lot of the time that didn't work out, but this year the cheap players that I put on initially, like your James Justins of Leicester and a few people like that, they kept their place for quite a long time. And once they start, everyone starts buying them then, and then your team value goes up. And once your team value goes up, you start being able to buy. Your squad gets better and your team gets better. So the start is just so critical. And then obviously when I did have a good start, I put a lot more time and focus into it, and put a lot more thinking into my transfers as times went on. But in the past, maybe when I was not winning it or not close to anything, I just kind of gave up and didn't put in the same level of effort into it.
It's an incredible season to win it, Michael, because genuinely being like a casual player, this has been the most competitive season ever, because everybody has just been sitting at home for the first half of the season. There's been over 8 million players for the first time ever. Everybody's taking this thing so seriously. So to come out number one this year is like the most impressive season to do it.
Yeah, I was thrilled. That's reflective in the I think I got the highest total score ever. Right. And I think maybe the top 4 or 5 also passed the previous highest score ever. So the standard is really high. And then the level of, I suppose, changes or complexities that happen with games getting cancelled and everything with COVID, and the amount of what they call double game weeks and single game weeks and blank game weeks kind of was way higher than ever before. So the amount of planning that you had to go into that was more than in previous seasons.
Sadio Mane, captain on the final day. Was that indicative of a strategy going down the home stretch of these Maverick picks?
Yeah, well, it was, no, I kind of played it safe most of the year, but I kind of going into Wednesday, the midweek fixtures, I was kind of thinking I was in a great position to get into a lead, and everything went wrong for me on Wednesday, and I ended up being third, and I had a 9-point and an 8-point deficit off first and second.
What happened on Wednesday? What went wrong?
So I had a great squad. I thought I had players more to play than the other guys that were ahead of me. I had Salah as captain that day. I had Mane, which no one had. I had quite a few players playing that day, but just none of them scored. And the guy that was against me had Willock, who's on the form of his life, and he got a goal Wednesday and he got man of the match in the game. And he had Lucas Digne, the Everton defender, who got a clean sheet, and he got very high bonus points as well. So I just thought, comparing my Salah and Mane to Willock and Digne, that I'd come out on top on that battle, but it turned out I lost badly that day, which surprised me. So that caused me to change my strategy. So looking at the two teams ahead of me, like as I kind of said in previous interviews, like when you get up that high, everybody has similar teams when you get that high, because they've all picked the players that are on form. So I had to make kind of differential in my team to I suppose to catch up and pass out the teams ahead of me. So that's where the Sadio Mane pick came. Particularly team number 2, his team was very, very similar to me, and the obvious pick was Salah. Like, he was going for Golden Boot, and he was on probably better form. But watching that Wednesday game, Mane he had a few chances, and I thought maybe if he actually put them away at the weekend and Sunday, it would be the only chance to give me to win it. And sure enough, it worked out.
Yeah, because I think Mane's been tipped as a differential all season long. Is like, he'll come good now. There will be a weekend when he scores. So, like, I mean, your timing was impeccable. The other thing, like, and as you say, the differentials are so important. It essentially becomes a game of 4 or 5 players down the home stretch when everybody's got the same 6 or 7 players. Ederson saving that penalty on Sunday. Were you watching that game live? Because that turned out to be as key for your team as Sadio Mane's haul.
No, so the strategy, I was watching the Liverpool game, just watching, hoping Salah wouldn't score and hoping for Mane, but I had a lot of alerts coming into my phone of every kind of thing that would happen. So the alert came straight away that he saved the penalty, which is big for me. It kind of paid back a lot of pain that he caused me, because I got him in 3 weeks before the end of the season for a -4 point hit. So he cost me money, and that was the day that, like, 10 minutes or 20 minutes after I made the decision, I found out that he wasn't starting. So Patterson was playing his first game for 11 years. So that was miserable. And then the next game he played, they let in 3 goals against Brighton. So he only got me, I think, 1 or 2 points. So I was pretty regretting that decision, but he came good for me in the end.
Incredible. Can I ask what informs your strategy, Michael? Is there certain reading you do? Is there certain statistics you rely on mostly? Is there anything you can put your finger on as to why you had such a good outcome on so many weeks this year? It's
fixture strategy and that double game week, blank game week strategy. It's just to, I suppose, you have to look far ahead, and you have to see when a team will have a good run of easier fixtures, and then you have to manage your team. So you'd be thinking weeks out that I'm going to have 2 million in my bank to be able to buy that player I want for that particular week. So you have to really manage that. And then for the double game weeks, you try and maximize the amount of players in your team that's going to play twice that week, and still have a relatively good team for the times when the teams aren't playing. So it was all about managing the chips, the cards you can play, to get around all that. I think that's the key to get ahead. Like, people just kind of probably float along and go, I want all these players because they're going to be brilliant this week, and they end up paying loads of 4 point hits to get players in. But it's the looking at the fixtures and getting your team right for the run. I think that's the key to do better, like, at the game.
What do you win?
So the prize is a 7-day trip to the UK, and you get 2 VIP experiences at a match of your choice. And then there's goodies, like, I think there's smartwatches and laptops and a few more managerial kind of jokier kind of prizes. But the main prize is that 7-day trip to the UK.
As soon as you get the vaccine, away you go. Who do you support?
Liverpool, yeah. So Liverpool is my team. So kind of a bit of a hard decision with Mane as well. So I got to shout for him for 2 reasons.
And when the penalty save was made, or when Mane scored, are you up running around the living room screaming?
So I was here in my apartment. I'd say they were wondering what's going on, because I suppose a lot of the end of the year there's not a lot of excitement in the games, because I suppose the league is over and a lot, like, relegation was already set and things like that. So I've never been as excited at the end of a season for every single game, even games that meant nothing. But yeah, I was particularly the second goal for Mane. I was uproaring, and the way it ended, the way the whole game ended was just incredible, because I was coming into the last 5 minutes of all the fixtures, and I was tracking to be only 1 point. I was going to lose it by 1 point, so I was kind of on edge, like. And Stuart Dallas for Leeds, he was getting a clean sheet, and it was looking like the game was saying he was going to get probably 2 bonus points, which would have meant I lost by a point. And then Robson Kanu for West Brom scored in the very dying minutes of that game, and lost that second his clean sheet and his bonus points. So that's actually what won it for me in the end.
Robson Kanu.
Oh man, that's class.
You should see that goal. Like, it was a really bad defender error. Like, so it was. I think the stars were aligned for me that day. Like with the penalty save and with Mane going well and all that kind of thing. But I kind of felt the few weeks leading up to it, a lot of the players around me were getting that look. like the Aguero penalty. A lot of the players around me had Mendy in goals, and they got a lot of points for that penalty save, even more so than Ederson, because they got bonus 3 that day. So I was kind of I was battling luck for a couple of weeks.
You were due it.
I felt I was due it, but in fairness, it all came in for me on the final day at the perfect time, really.
And how do you go back to normal life now, where this is not every single second of your waking, living day?
It was a great I must say it was a great distraction, because I suppose with COVID, a lot of the other, I suppose, outlets or social outlets were removed. So it was great. So yeah, I will miss it, but at least there's always Euros on the horizon. I probably will avoid the fantasy league in Euros, just because I probably need a break from the stress of it. But just sit back and I'll watch a bit of the games, and hopefully now COVID restrictions will be relaxing a small bit, and we'll be able to get out and do a bit more, maybe play 5-a-side again or do something like that.
One last question for me: what was the name of your team that you were concerned might get you disqualified? Are you allowed to say it?
My surname is a bit controversial. Coone is considered is not considered great at times, so I think it was called Coone to Attack or something. I always put a team name with my surname in it, so it was just to avoid any implications to my surname.
Well, that's fair enough.
Where are you from, Michael? I've got to ask. What county lays claim to you?
Yeah, Galway. So I'm from Galway, but I live and work in Dublin. But I grew up I was in Meath going to school, and then both parents are from Galway, so they moved the family home back to Galway. So in Portumna, and but I'm living up and working in Dublin at the moment.
Well, listen, congratulations, and long may your success continue. Enjoy that trip to whatever 2 games. I presume you're going to pick 2 Liverpool games.
I presume so,
yeah. Well, enjoy that, Michael. Good stuff. Thanks a million. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a million. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
No worries. Cheers. You're big into your fantasy Premier League, and you appreciate the effort that went into it.
Oh yeah, I'm well past my peak when I used to absolutely be a nerd over it all. But as I said, that's what the point from there. Everybody was paying some sort of attention at some point this season, and we all went through periods of digging deep into it. So to win this season is absolutely extraordinary, and more players than ever as well.
I've told this story many times, but it's another opportunity for me to do so. When he was on the sports desk at Today FM, Nathan would phone up on Thursday or Friday the various press officers and say, "Oh, I'm just reporting on the Premier League game that we have live on Today FM on Saturday afternoon. Can you give me any extra information about the fitness of the following players?" And he would base his fantasy team selections on the basis of the information that he got. He was top 20 at one point.
He was, literally just going back through his history now. Nathan Murphy finished 190th in the world in 2007-2008. But sure, there was probably 191 players playing it back then. Yeah, that's the effort. Obviously Nathan Murphy just watches real football now, doesn't he? And he doesn't play fantasy football. But he plays it really badly. His finish was 635,000 in the world this season.
Where'd you finish?
I was bad enough, 200,000.
400,000 ahead of Nathan.
Yeah,
Right.
Maybe there was a bit of a subtext to the whole fantasy football comment last week. I don't know.
Beef is real.
Who's to speculate? Yeah, the beef is real. West versus East.
8 minutes past 8 this morning. We'll bring you some more Biggie 2-pack a little bit later on if you want it. You can get us at Off the Ball on Twitter, or of course you can get us on 0879 180 180.